What is going on, Notre Dame fans? Mike Singer and Ashton Pollard from blueandgold.com coming to you on a Saturday with a video about a couple of high school football games that we saw on Friday night with a couple of key Notre Dame recruits. We'll go first with Ashton Pollard's game that she saw. It was a, what was it, 27-7 defeat
Yep.
for Drayk Bowen's Maryville and Andrian team. Bowen committed to Notre Dame last November, top 100 player according to the On3 consensus rankings. So, Ashton, we will roll the film that you took of Bowen from Friday night, and yeah, just again, it was a losing effort, but what did you think about Bowen's performance?
Yeah. So, kind of to explain why that was such a lopsided victory in favor of Maryville was so if you're unfamiliar with Northwestern Indiana football, Maryville is a 5A team and Andrean is a 2A team. So you have these two teams pitted against each other. Maryville's massive; it's like 2,000 students. So that's kind of where the mismatch is, but they're on the same street. So it's called Broadway. So it's called the Battle of Broadway. So that's kind of why this happened last year too. It doesn't mean that Drayk Bowen's season is sunk for his team. It's just,
Right.
This is kind of what happens when they play each other. But Drayk looked really, really good. I think he obviously stands out. Like, it was funny. I was standing next to Matt Freeman from Irish Sports Daily, and he just looked at me jokingly and he was like, "Find the Division I recruit," because
Right.
Bowen's just huge. He said he's up to 231 pounds. 6'2", 231 pounds. So yeah, he's just so much bigger than everyone else. In terms of stat line, I don't have the exact stats, and actually asked him this morning and he didn't have them either. So it was about 9 tackles and he did have a sack. He plays on both sides of the ball and he's also their punter. So this kid is playing literally every single snap. Absolutely exhausting. I would say in terms of big plays offensively, there really weren't any. That sole touchdown that Andrean scored was a pick six, not by Bowen, but by one of his teammates. So they couldn't really get a lot going on that end, but he looked good. He basically just, when he has the ball and he runs with the ball, he just bulldozes everybody. He was lined up as a tight end a little bit too, which I asked him about. Typically he only plays running back, and he said that that's just kind of the plan, to have him do that, to get him involved in the passing game since he is so talented. But yeah, otherwise he looked great. His team not so much, but still expect them to be a contender for a state title again. They won it last year. Expect them to be a contender again when they're not facing schools that have a massive leg up on them in terms of student population and talent.
Ashton, he just looks like a bad dude. Like, I
Yeah.
just would not want to play football against Drayk Bowen. Like, he hits with such force, running the ball. It's like, if you need a yard, give the ball to Drayk Bowen. And
Yeah, and that's what they did a lot. A lot of third and short situations, give it to Bowen. The passing game, they struggled a bit. Their starting quarterback actually got knocked out with what looked kind of like a collarbone issue, so they were playing without him. So that's why the passing game kind of didn't get going, and why when they got stuck in these third and long situations, they weren't able to convert. Hence the lack of points. But yeah, and then I guess I'll just add, Bowen also said to us, so he played 3.5 quarters. Basically, he didn't play the last 6 minutes of the fourth quarter. He didn't have a knee injury per se, but he got banged up, had a little bit of a limp for a second, and his coaches were just like, you know what, this game's out of reach. We don't need to put this kid in jeopardy. But we talked to him after. He said he's fine. Nothing popped, or he didn't feel anything like pull or anything. So he said he was totally fine, and he could have played, I think, had it been a closer game or had the stakes been higher, but just like a precautionary thing. So yeah, if you have 9 tackles and a sack and you're playing quite literally every single snap, I can understand why his coaches are just like, yeah, you're good for the last 5 minutes here. So
yeah, him in coverage, run. And here's him as a
yeah.
punter, Ashton. Can you
Yep.
break down his punting ability?
Yeah, so I obviously was not present for this last year, but Matt Freeman was, and he said that he had 2 punts blocked against his team last year, and that did not happen yesterday, which is a good sign. I think he punted, I want to say 5 times. They had a different punter towards the end there, probably because they didn't want to risk Bowen getting injured anymore once the game was out of reach. But he kind of shanked 1, but the other 4 looked pretty good. So it's kind of, to be expected for a kid who doesn't really practice punting. He's just kind of out there because I imagine he has one of the strongest legs on the team.
All right, so that's the report on Drayk Bowen, and then I was in the Atlanta area taking a look at Kaleb Beasley, a top Notre Dame cornerback target. You see the on-3 recruiting prediction machines heavily favoring the Fighting Irish, and in large part due to a prediction that I logged in favor of the Irish. So, in terms of how he looked, so the thing is, I've been covering college football recruiting for about a decade, and whenever you go out on the road to see a recruit, you like to see offensive linemen and quarterbacks, running backs, linebackers, positions that these players are going to be involved in the game. Here's a pick by Beasley. But with cornerbacks, they can just not throw your way. And then it's a boring game. It's like, man, what do I write or what do I talk about with this game? But Beasley's team located in Nashville. Here's another PBU. Came down to Atlanta. I mean, Beasley's playing at a smaller private school. I believe it's a smaller school in Nashville, playing a powerhouse program in Milton in the Atlanta area, and they came and won 17-7 on the road. And Beasley was a big reason for that. Had the pick, with his defense backed up against his own end zone. Had 2 or 3 pass breakups, several tackles near the end of the footage. You'll see a few punt returns as well. I love when a cornerback is also handling punt return duties. Just kind of shows that explosiveness. So, yeah. Kaleb Beasley, a top Notre Dame cornerback target. He looked really good. He's physical. And this number 1 receiver that he was up against a lot is DeBron Gatling, a 2024 4-star receiver. So, playing against good competition. The quarterback for Milton was Luke Nickel, a class of 2025. Signal caller with I believe he's got an early offer from Michigan State, where his brother Jack Nickel is playing. And Jack Nickel, a tight end, was committed to Notre Dame in the 2022 class. Before that did not work out. Kind of an interesting side note, but yeah, Beasley was all over the place, making tackles, had the pick, punt return. Like I said, we'll see in a minute. It was a strong performance, and obviously it's a position of need. Notre Dame's always needing top cornerbacks.
You popped up his recruiting prediction machine heavily favors Notre Dame. Do you still kind of feel confident in that? Were you able to talk to him at all after? Or where do you think that stands?
Yeah, I did get to talk to him after the game. He's got loads of visits coming up after the season. So, we'll just kind of have to see. He's not going to make a decision here anytime soon. I would expect it to be after a season, maybe take some spring official visits, and now we're getting into his punt returns. But yeah, I think Notre Dame is the favorite. Obviously, I got the pick in. Michigan, Penn State, Tennessee, all schools that are very much in the mix and will likely host him this fall. Man, the punter made a really nice tackle on that play. Otherwise, that was going to the house. Yeah, I mean, he told me that he had just talked to Marcus Freeman on Thursday, discussing this upcoming game. Great relationship with Mike Mickens and Chris O'Leary, and Chad Bowden, obviously director of recruiting, is involved with just everybody Notre Dame's after. So, I mean, as you guys can see on the film, he's an electric player and he's very good in coverage. Gatling got him a couple times for sure, but overall, I think it was a win for Beasley on the night. But Ashton, I think that's it for this video. Appreciate everybody watching. Hit that thumbs up. Subscribe to our YouTube channel if you have not yet, and we'll catch you next time.